If Trump actually takes away income tax, many investors are going to be pretty happy with their past decisions. Some investors are going to be pissed. Grab a drink, take a seat, let's talk about it. What's up, y'all? It's Brian. So when you heard there was a chance that we could have no income tax, did you think about what would happen to your 401k, your IRA, or even your regular brokerage account? Some accounts are going to become pretty badass, but other accounts are going to become pointless. I remember when I first started working and I was setting up my 401k, I had the choice to pick between the traditional or the Roth. At the time, everyone told me Roth was the way to go, so I went with Roth. But since then, I sat down and did the math for my specific situation, and I ended up switching to the traditional 401k. Now, I didn't consider the fact that income tax might go to zero, but if it does, I will be incredibly happy with my decision to go with the traditional 401k. So here is why. When I put money in a traditional 401k, here's the account right here, I have an income. So here, this bar will represent my income. The first chunk of money that I make is going to be in the lowest tax bracket. That's the 10% bracket. Then my next money is going to be in the 12% bracket. And let's just say my top tax bracket is the 22% tax bracket. So the rest of my money goes in there. First of all, I pay taxes on all that money. But whenever I put some of it in the traditional 401k, let's say I put in this chunk right here at the top, and that money goes in the traditional 401k, I no longer have to pay taxes on all my income. Now I only have to pay taxes on the amount that I did not put in the traditional 401k. So what that works out to be is every dollar I put in the traditional 401k, I save 22 cents. 22% of that goes back into my pocket. Now, when I take money out of the 401k in retirement, I do still have to pay taxes on that money. So in this case, if income tax goes away, I still have the past benefit of all of my tax savings that I got whenever I put money into my 401k. And then in the future, when I take money out, normally I would have to pay taxes, but if income tax goes away, now I don't have to pay taxes. Now I get 100% benefit from having the traditional 401k. The same goes for the traditional IRA. Now let's look at the Roth. So whenever I have a Roth 401k, I still have my income bar here and I'm paying taxes on all that money. Now, when I take a chunk off the top and I put it into my Roth 401k, I do not get the tax benefits of shielding that money from taxes. I'm still going to pay all those taxes. Where I get the benefit is when I take the money out of my 401k. With the traditional, I would have to pay taxes, but in this case, since it's the Roth, I don't have to pay any taxes. So that's awesome. However, if Trump takes away income tax, that benefit doesn't matter anymore because every single account in the world has that same benefit. You don't have to pay taxes anymore. So now the Roth, which I thought was going to be this great tax saving tool, is now just like every other account. It becomes very similar to a brokerage account. With the brokerage account, I make money, pay taxes, I put money in there. Now, where the brokerage account isn't quite as good as a IRA or 401k is when you have a 401k or IRA, the money that is in that account, you never have to pay taxes on it until you take it out. So if I have dividends, they're shielded from taxes in the account. If I sell something to buy something else, as long as it stays in the account, I don't have to pay any taxes. But with the brokerage, if I do any of that, if I get any dividends, I still have to pay taxes on the gains. Now, if Trump takes away income tax, then going forward, I don't have to pay any of those taxes within the account. And when I pull money out, I don't have to pay any taxes. So the brokerage account becomes very similar to the Roth accounts in terms of benefit for me when income tax goes away. People who put all their money in traditional accounts, like the traditional 401k and the traditional IRA, they're going to be very happy because they get a double bonus. People who put their money in the brokerage account are going to be very happy because they get all the tax advantages and they still have the flexibility of having their money in a brokerage. And then people who put all their money in the Roth are going to be feeling really left out. That being said, those are all decisions that we made in the past that we cannot change. Going forward, if income tax is taken away, what accounts should we be using to get the most benefit? First of all, we have to assume that these accounts are still going to be around. It could be the case that if income tax goes away, there's not much need for these accounts anymore. And so they just axe all the accounts. Everything that was in there, you end up with a check in the mail from the government. Here's your refund from your tax advantage accounts. Who knows? So for the sake of the video, let's assume that these accounts are still around. So first of all, 401k, absolutely yes, 401k is still going to be good because of the employer match. Most employers who offer a 401k will match a certain percentage of the money that you put in. The average match in the US is 6% of your salary gets matched by 50%. So if you put 6% in, Your employer puts in 3%. So even though you're losing 6% of your salary, you're getting 9% of your salary in there. That is a great benefit. Now, we could go traditional 401k or Roth. For traditional, no way. Traditional is not going to be good because there's no point in putting money in there for the initial tax savings because there is no tax to be saved. Now, with the Roth, I would go with the Roth because in the future, if income tax is restored, then the Roth still has the future benefit of taking money out tax-free. So I would for sure use my Roth 401k going forward if income tax goes away and the 401k is still a thing. Now, as far as IRAs go, traditional IRA, there's no benefit, there's no match. I wouldn't use it. The Roth IRA, that's a maybe because yes, there's no tax benefit now, but in the future, if income tax is restored, I could get that future benefit. Now, the cost for putting my money in the Roth IRA is I now have to deal with the restrictions. I can't pull my gains out until 59 and a half. And then if I want to get access to that money earlier, then there's a bunch of complicated steps that I have to go through. So that would be a little bit of a downside. And then finally, the brokerage accounts. Absolutely, I would still use brokerage accounts because you get all the flexibility and, well, there's no income tax, so you don't have any taxes. So in conclusion, the Roth 401k is going to be the best account, followed by the brokerage accounts, and then maybe, depending on your situation, maybe you want to roll the dice with the Roth IRA. But I can already hear people asking, how likely is it that Trump actually takes away income tax? Is this even a possibility?
Never tell me the odds.
Well, let's see from his own mouth. What did he actually say?
She said no tax, and then how about just no tax? You could do that. You know, if the tariffs work out like I think, a thing like that could happen if you want to know the truth.
I don't know about you, but I didn't hear any explicit promises. It sounded to me like he wants us to believe that it's a possibility, but he's definitely not making any commitments to take away income tax. Based on his own words, I'm thinking it's unlikely. So next, let's look at the numbers. Is it reasonable to think that if tariffs are successful, then that amount of money could replace the income tax? I found this really cool breakdown for how the government gets its revenues. This is for 2022. The total revenues that the government pulled in was 4.9 trillion. 2.6 trillion came from individual income taxes. That includes capital gains tax, and only 100 billion came from customs and duties. So that would be tariffs. So if Trump is going to cover 2.6 trillion, he's going to have to significantly expand the amount of money that we pull in from tariffs. He has floated the idea that he would have a 10% tariff on all imports. So if he did that, how much money do we actually spend on imports? This chart is showing the numbers as of 2023. It looks like we spent as a country $3.83 trillion on imports. So if Trump was going to charge a 10% tariff on 3.83 trillion, that would mean that we would pull in $383 billion. Now, 383 billion is just not enough. It's not even close to being able to cover 2.63 trillion. So he would have to have a significantly higher tariff than just 10%. After doing the math, it turns out he would need a 69% tariff. Now, there was already a lot of backlash on the 10% idea when he floated that. It seems like he's walked that back. Now he's only talking about tariffs on specific countries like Canada, Mexico, and China. But if he wanted to do a 69% tariff, I think that would get tons of pushback. I don't think he could get a 69% tariff passed. Now, there are other options. There are other forms of federal taxes that he could implement or expand. So if I pull up what other countries are doing, this graph shows our breakdown. We get 42.1% of our revenue from individual taxes and only 16.6% on consumption taxes, whereas other countries, the average is much higher at 32%. Now, consumption tax is like sales tax. And in the US, we only have sales tax on the state level. So Trump could implement a federal sales tax in conjunction with expanding tariffs, and that could start maybe coming in to fill in for the income tax. When I look at other countries, there are other countries that have a very small percentage of their total revenue from income taxes. If I look at Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, they'd have less than 10% of their total revenue comes from income taxes, and a very high percent comes from consumption taxes. So because other countries are doing it, I'm going to assume that it's possible that we could implement a similar system in America. I have not heard any talk of implementing federal sales tax. I have not heard any talk of significantly expanding tariffs to anything close to 69%. So with the information available today, it's incredibly unlikely that Trump is going to remove the federal income tax. And that is why I think it is incredibly important to understand what accounts are available today for us to save the most money on taxes, assuming that income tax is still a thing. If you're interested in paying less taxes without waiting for a presidential order, check out this video right here, where I go over the best retirement accounts for your specific situation. Cheers. Okay. That was pretty good. Jefferson's Ocean aged at sea.